On this episode, we're going to be talking about all things marketing and music. Stay tuned. Welcome to another episode of Real Talk. I am your host, Carlos Gil. We are at the NASDAQ market site here in Times Square. And today's guest that's joining me on the set is Ryan Leslie. Ryan is a Grammy-nominated musician, producer, and he's also the founder of SuperPhone. Ryan, welcome to Real Talk.
Thanks for having me.
It is a pleasure to have you here on the set, my man.
Pleasure to be here.
So I've been following your entrepreneurial game for a moment now. Okay. We were talking here offset about SuperPhone, which we're going to talk quite a bit about. Bon and Bao uses it. Gary Vee uses it. Right. You use it.
Yeah.
But let's talk about your come up. You've made your name in the music industry as a Grammy-nominated musician, hip-hop artist, producer.
Yes.
And now you're an entrepreneur. So talk to us about the hip-hop game. How do you get started in music?
Listen, I feel like I've always been an entrepreneur. So from the very early age of whenever I had my first lemonade stand, I always knew that I needed to work hard in order to make money, in order to have the freedom to do what I wanted to do. So from the time I was in college, I had a little barbershop in college, and that freedom, I think, is really what drives and motivates me to continue with the entrepreneurial spirit so that I can choose the projects that I feel are going to be most impactful. In the very beginning, it was about changing my own circumstances, and then that grew to changing the circumstances of my family, and then that grew to wanting to change the circumstances of literally everyone on the planet. And so that's really what the trajectory went from. For me, it was just about making enough money so I could do music. Once I was doing music, making enough money so I could change my life and my family. And then now that I've done some music, I've made some millions, now I'm interested in empowering that next generation, or even this generation, to be able to get to that kind of financial freedom so that they can really focus on doing what they love to do. Because I feel like when you do what you love to do, that's when your gift to the world is going to be of the most value.
How has social media specifically changed the music industry? Because you see artists, not just like yourself, but many others out there that are active now on Instagram, on Twitter, on Snapchat. So maybe speak to the audience out there watching. How is it that you leverage social media to be more connected with your fans?
Social media really is it's a very, very beautiful part of the information superhighway. We're in the information age. You can go online and basically learn anything that you have a desire to learn. And I think social media is a channel. I remember when I first discovered YouTube, I couldn't believe that I could broadcast to the world for free. I mean, there's a cost to it. We'll talk about the costs later. But I could broadcast to the world without an actual monetary charge to myself, and it could be a global stream to the entire world. And I think when we can take advantage of that platform, whether it's on Instagram, Snapchat, YouTube, whatever that platform is, it allows us to have a direct channel to what people are really thinking and feeling. And so I can express myself in whatever way I want to. And you know, I have these conversations all the time with young people. I do brunches every Saturday and Sunday and just bring, whether it's influencers or neuroscientists or, you know, just the most interesting people I know around the table to talk about how social media is really impacting the way that we communicate, the way that we share, the way that we express ourselves. And it's had a profound impact on just the way that we connect as human beings.
Is there a direct correlation, though, between having a social media presence and being active and selling more records, or in this case, getting more downloads on iTunes?
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, listen, you know, we're long beyond the days of terrestrial radio and terrestrial television dictating what we consume in terms of entertainment. And so I mean, I actually went and saw a friend of mine over at Instagram, and the statistics are staggering, really. I mean, Instagram users are checking Instagram 3 times an hour. Mm-hmm. So
on average. Yeah.
So there's a stream of content that's happening there, and you want to be in that stream when people are checking. And I mean, listen, I want people to just think about their own Instagram use. How often do they check in? Who are they following? And content that they catch, content that they miss, content that they share. And so, I mean, I always tell young people who are getting into social media that every single piece of content that you post is like a lottery ticket. It has the ability to be shared by millions and millions of folks. And so the fact that you can actually print your own lottery tickets, if you're looking for exposure, you just got to print your own lottery tickets. But let's make them as engaging. Let's give them a viral coefficient. Let's give them all of the elements that you would want in a piece of content that you would share with your own friends.
So how long have you been in the music industry for? How many years, approximately?
I caught my break in the music industry really in 2003.
Okay. So this is pre-Facebook, pre-social media,
Yeah.
I believe MySpace.
Yeah.
Maybe it was just catching off back then.
Yeah.
And name maybe some of the artists that you've worked with.
Kanye West,
Okay.
Mary J. Blige, Britney Spears, Beyonce. Definitely spent some time in the studio with Madonna, Alicia Keys. Some records came out, some records still, we'll see if they ever see the light of day. But I mean, probably my most recognizable work was with Fabulous. I did a record with him called You Be Killing Them, another record with Carrie Hilson called Every Day, Everything, Everywhere. And then my most successful commercial work was with Cassie. So that was an artist that I discovered, fell in love with, and I mean, took advantage of every. I mean, it was magical.
She had a hit, I think it was
called Me and You.
Me and You? Yeah.
Yeah, and really, it was magical, man. It was a MySpace trajectory that, you know.
That was a song back in the day that when it would come on at the club, it was like, all right, it's a special moment. Like when that song would come on at the club, it was a special moment. It was like a certain time of the evening.
Yeah, it still works. That record still works in the club. I mean,
yeah.
I'll still go to clubs, whether it's Switzerland, Sweden. I could be in Slovakia. I could be in New York, Miami. That record is still. I mean, we were just at the Met Ball after party, and you know, I'm in there. I'm looking at Pharrell. Pharrell heard the record come on, and he's giving me this record was it. You know, so I mean, I think really. That was a really it was like a crown jewel of all the productions I've ever made. Me and You. It just had all the right elements. Her as the vessel, the social media platform that broke the song.
Yeah.
The way that it caught on around the world. It was a special moment.
So I like that I'm here chopping it up with you because oftentimes I compare the marketing game to the rap game.
Okay.
So I'm not a musician myself. I grew up, following all the greats, Tupac, Biggie, on and on. Mm-hmm. And, you look at the marketing game today and you hear the word collaboration a lot.
Yeah.
If you want to go ahead and grow your brand, if you want to get your name out there, you have to collaborate, you have to do stuff like this, you have to link up with the Gary V's of the world, right? But you just named all these artists that you've worked with, which goes back to collaboration. Before social media, right, you still had to work with people in your industry if you want to go ahead and grow large and support one another. And, I often make that comparison to marketing. The flip side to that is, the hip-hop game and marketing game can be very similar because you've got people that take shots at one another. And this is now a real communication medium for executives. It happens in the marketing world for executives to take shots at each other.
Give me an example.
Oh, man.
A recent example of marketing executives taking shots at each other.
You don't see it like at the Fortune 500 level.
There's CMO beef.
But there's CMO beef. There's social media thought leader beef.
Okay.
There's all those things that happen. So it's funny because when you really look at the greats in the music industry and their come up, and even yourself, before social media, I'm sure you were doing shows, selling CDs at your shows, right? Trying to get your music as many places. It's no different than, an artist who is in the business game writing books, a content creator that's trying to grow his or her YouTube channel.
Right.
You know, there's people creating podcasts. They're putting them on SoundCloud nowadays, which is kind of blurring the lines of audio. And yeah, you know, at all levels, there's going to be beefs, even in the business world.
Yeah.
And social media kind of amplifies it on another level.
You didn't give me an exact example, but I would love to research some CMO.
So you know what? Kind of bringing it back to what we're going to be talking about with automation. There's a lot of thought leaders out there in the social media space that are completely against automation. And I'll be the first one to raise my hand if a bot or if any sort of AI can automate things that free up my time to be able to do this or to be able to serve my clients, I'm going to go ahead and use it. But there's thought leaders out there that are more old school that feel that if you're putting automation and automating your marketing game, then you're being less human, you're being less personal. And I've had marketing thought leaders take shots at me for using bots on Instagram, for example.
Okay.
So, you know, that's just an example of what happens when people want to criticize. The same way people criticize like your lyrics or your songs. In the marketing space, they'll criticize the way that you market.
Techniques.
The techniques.
Right.
Exactly.
And what have you found? I feel like I'm interviewing you now. But what have you found to actually work in terms of automation and AI that actually works for you? So for everyone that's listening and thinking about how they can automate their lives so they have more time to be creative, what have you found that actually works for you?
So here's the thing, two things. One, to be able to identify who's your true fan. You know, a fan can also be a potential customer.
Yeah.
So let's face it, you know, social media, you're going to come across fans, potential clients, people that want to cut you a check, or in some cases, people that you want to cut a check to. So how do you weed through all of that noise that's happening? Because it's noisy, and you have a lot of platforms. Like we mentioned them before. You know, even before we came on the set, I'm telling you, I'm active on Twitter, on Facebook. So you have to find a way to sift through this noise because you only have so much time in the day.
It's true.
You know, we're sitting here in the studio for the next hour. That's an hour less that I'm engaging on social media. So if you can find a way to sift through that noise and still stay relevant, what's going to happen is people are going to see your content, and they're going to send you that DM, or in this case, the text message.
Right.
And the second play is data. To be able to capture a name, an email address, or a phone number, that's more valuable, in my opinion, than a like or than even a follow.
It's true.
So a lot of marketers out there, even a lot of brands, are constantly sweating the like game and the follower game. They're trying to get their likes and follows up. When in reality, what you need to be doing is get people's data so you can sell directly to them and communicate directly to them off of social.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. It's true.
So let's talk about SuperPhone.
Yeah. I mean, you said it. You just set it up.
Let's talk right to SuperPhone.
Yeah.
You have a technology in which you, as an artist, are able to give out your phone number.
Yes.
And now you're able to have your most engaged fans send you a text directly.
Yes.
Let's talk about what was the inspiration for SuperPhone.
The inspiration for SuperPhone is everything that you just talked about. Just the ability to have that direct line of communication. I believe success happens at the speed of communication. So the faster you can get the right message to the right person with the right resources at the right time, the faster you can achieve success. So for me, that success in the short term was selling more records. I wanted to make sure that people knew that my record was out, they could support it. And once the record happened, I wanted to make sure they knew where I was performing and they could come see that electrifying live show that we put so much time, energy, and resources into making. And so the ability to do that on social, I felt there was a barrier. And that barrier was very simply, it's noisy. And that noise is created by the number of folks that all of my supporters were following. So it wasn't that they specifically wanted to miss out on what I was actually telling them. It was just that they're following so many people that by the time they actually scrolled and were ready to fall asleep, they might have missed my post. And so when I send them a text message directly, I'm not in that social media noise. I'm in a much more intimate place in that device that they use all the time, which is their mobile device. And so I just wanted to have that direct line. And then I started to realize that I didn't have a cell phone number on all my LinkedIn connections. So when I wanted to connect with someone, I would have to wait to see if they even looked in their InMail. Or I didn't have a cell phone number on all my Facebook friends. So when I wanted to connect with someone, I had to wait until they saw my Facebook message. And I didn't have a cell phone number on all the people I even followed on Instagram. So when I wanted to connect with them, I had to wait until they opened their DM. I wanted a cell phone number on everyone just because when I want to get my point across, when I want to collaborate, when I want to make big business happen, when I want to make big impact happen, I don't want to waste time waiting for them to have to overcome a communication barrier. I want to get directly into that communication channel I want to get directly into that communication channel that's most urgent. And
yeah, let's face it, to your point, who doesn't check their cell phone? When that notification comes through or when it pops up on your screen, you're going to check your mobile messages before you are even an email address. So would you say, to your point, that a phone number for a brand, or in this case, an entrepreneur or content creator to own access to someone's phone number is more valuable than an email?
I would have to say absolutely. And that's the crusade I'm on. I'm interested in a new wave of ownership. And ownership is really, in my opinion, it's really about starting with what you can own. And most people don't even have ownership of their own data. So the number of people that I've sat down with, they said, okay, do you own your medical records? They don't even own their medical records. People that I sit down and say, do you own the records of all the text messages you've ever exchanged? Even with the big cell phone companies, they don't own their data. Do you own your Facebook data? Until recently, they could only just recently download all their data and back it up. Cloud storage makes it very, very inexpensive to actually have an archive of everything pertaining to you that exists digitally. So it's not just your photos and videos that you take on your phone. You can actually have conversations. Those conversations, I believe, in the future are going to create the framework for how we can actually accelerate as a civilization. We'll be able to take this conversation. Yeah, you and I have taken the initiative to film this conversation and record it so that people can actually consume it and learn from it. And I believe in the future, when I pass away, I can actually leave an archive of all my conversations with whoever approves it, so that those conversations, the backroom deals, the exchanges that happen off camera, I think that's where the real wealth of information actually is. And up to this point, yeah, there's a lot of publicly available information, but the way that people actually close deals, the way that people actually get put on, the way that people actually go from unknown to super famous, a lot of those conversations are not publicly available. And so we find ourselves struggling to try to figure it out over and over and over again. And those closed circles, I believe when those circles are open and when we have the truth and transparency around what it really takes to accelerate, our whole civilization, our whole society can actually accelerate faster. We could solve problems more quickly. And so that's why I believe that having the cell phone number on everyone is so important, because you actually own the data. Right now, if you wanted to download all your Instagram DMs just so you had a record of all of them, it would be a challenge, right? You have to just go through and screenshot all of them, screenshot all of them, and have somebody transcribe them. With our platform, we're basically ushering in the future of real ownership. So from the time you have a cell phone number and you give it to everyone and you start texting and calling, you have ownership of the most important data in your life, which is the conversations that you're having.
So let me get this straight. With SuperPhone, once someone sends you a text message, is there a back-end CRM that's web-based that I can see a log, or is there a mobile app where I can now see a log of everyone that's texted that number?
Absolutely.
And do I have the ability to do any sort of marketing campaigns where I can send a message out over text to these individuals?
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what it's built for. So it's built first and foremost for you to have a cell phone number on everyone in your life. So that's why it's very easy. I have a URL actually, textryan.com. You go to textryan.com, you leave your number, you will receive a text from me. I have your number.
Okay.
You have access directly to me. If you're persistent, I will see those messages. Now,
yeah, because my question was going to be, how do you, with your big following, sort through all of these text messages if I'm sure it's hard to even sort through social media notifications for you?
Yeah, well, I mean, we make it very, very easy. And the way we make it easy is I'm able to prioritize messages. So messages from my family, they got priority. Messages from people who spent money with me, they got priority. Messages from people who've invested in SuperPhone, they have priority. Messages from artists or influencers that I feel I can collaborate with, they have priority. And I'm able to set that priority based on whatever criteria I want. Journalists like Carrie, priority, right? And I'm able to set who can actually ring my phone, who actually gets sent to voicemail, just send me a text. I'm able to also have inactivity tracking. So when you and I meet, we exchange information, I can tell my phone, Carlos is important. So if my phone recognizes that more than 2 weeks has gone by and I haven't reached out, just reach out on my behalf, because I can scale the intent that I have to stay in touch with you by just telling my phone, you're important. I don't want to lose touch with you. We literally have a patent pending on this technology. It's called Never Lose Touch, which allows me to literally set a time interval. And whenever there's inactivity over that time interval, it will actually reach out and text people on my behalf to make sure that I'm always in the loop. I'm always top of mind. When people have an opportunity, they think of me because I just shot them a text.
Well, I have to say, Ryan, that you've made a new believer and customer out of me. So I'll be signing up for SuperPhone.
Right, yeah.
And before this interview airs, I'll have a Text Carlos domain.
Yeah.
So my community can also follow me. Now, let's talk about the business side of this.
Sure.
There's a lot of brand marketers out there
Sure.
that are probably thinking, all right, look, we've got Facebook and we've got our hands full with Instagram and we're creating all this content. How does SuperPhone fit into the marketing mix?
Yeah, I mean, it's very, very, very clear. You can text people. That's it. So they don't miss out. So when I have a show, when I have a product, when I'm doing my book, when I'm dropping a single, I have new content, even if I make a new Instagram post, I can text people that URL and make sure that they actually see it. The statistic is 98% of text messages are open within the first 3 minutes. If you give them a reason to click, 40 to 50%, maybe even 70% of those people are going to click that link. When you think about those kinds of conversions, those conversions are staggering compared to email or any other social media platform. Really, this is really the advent of marketing on dark social. And anyone that you've heard about anyone you've heard talked about dark social talks about the power of dark social. Yeah, it's cool if I post your flyer or post your album cover or post your new product on Instagram. But when I actually send you a text and say, hey, man, you got to check this out, it's awesome, that dark social push is infinitely more powerful because there's an intimacy behind that.
Well, the way I think about it also is that, you know, you can now market at the speed of light.
Yes.
Which is true real time.
Yes.
So the way I think about it is if you're Best Buy, for example, before you leak your Black Friday specials out a couple days before Thanksgiving, just go ahead and give away your Black Friday specials over text message to your most engaged super fans.
Yeah, and I would say, I would take it a step even further for Best Buy. I would give every single salesperson on the floor of Best Buy a SuperPhone number so that each salesperson can actually have 100 or 200 folks so that the personal intimacy is even that much more powerful. The text message from Best Buy, yeah, you're right, it might cut through, but the text message from my guy at Best Buy is even going to be that much more powerful. So when you see a text message about a new Samsung television, right, and it's coming from your guy, right, at PC Richard, that's the way that you're going to actually say, you know what, well, yeah, what's the special on that? Or when you walk into a restaurant, when you see the special coming from your guy, they say, oh yeah, what's the specials? So I think as humans, we do really crave that personal connection. And so I think that's really where we can start to see SuperPhone scale. So it doesn't have to be all the way up at the top brand level.
Right.
I don't think I necessarily would have a hotline for PC Richard in my phone, but I would love to have my guy. I got a guy at PC Richard, and they send me a text, and it's all built on a platform that allows for the brand to actually see the conversations that are going on.
And it's not just the consumer that wants that intimacy, but I spent 10 years working in brand marketing, and I can tell you, when you're on the brand side, your CMO, your chief marketing officer, is looking for instant ROI.
Yeah.
They're looking for instant results, which is why email marketing is still really hot with brands. So now you go one step further with mobile marketing, text message marketing. Essentially, you can see that people are opening up and responding
Yes.
almost in real time to that message quicker than a Facebook post, quicker than even a tweet, which gets lost.
Yeah.
So I could tell that we are going to be having some mastermind conversations over text.
Let's go.
How we can get SuperPhone in front of every brand, especially the brands like the Best Buys that have millions of phone numbers through their CRM.
Right. And so I think that those phone numbers need to be distributed down to folks that actually really do care on a human level. I think, even in the age of technology and automation, people really do care about connecting on a human level. I think the statistic is that 70 or 80% of all inbound calls to a hotline can probably be handled by the IVR or the automated system. But when you call an airline and you want to make a change, you don't sit there and press all the buttons and wait. 9 times out of 10, you just say agent or you click 0 because you want that human connection. And so I believe there needs to be a very, very intelligent way to scale that human connection across hundreds or thousands or hundreds of thousands of salespeople or brand ambassadors across the world, and it all be aggregated under the umbrella of one SuperPhone account for the big brands. But they can actually see those human interactions, and those human interactions, I think, are also going to those human interactions are going to inform them on how to be more effective with their messaging.
Ryan, thank you so much for your time. You mentioned Carrie. I'm going to be bringing Carrie Flynn here on the set in just a moment, who's with Digiday. I'm going to ask you to stick around.
I'll stick around
because we're going to bring you and Carrie back together after her and I rap back and forth, no pun intended, on SuperPhone.
Okay.
Before we go ahead and move over to Carrie, let the viewers out there know where they can follow you, and most importantly, your phone number so they can get in touch with you.
Like I said, man, the easiest way to do this is textryan.com. I could say a phone number. I know what the struggle is of remembering a phone number. Textryan.com. Just leave your number. You want to continue the conversation, leave your number. I'll shoot you a text right back. Say that you saw me on this show, and I'll make sure that we continue the dialogue. Thank you so much for having me. I'll see you in a little bit.
Real talk. Ryan Leslie, ladies and gentlemen, make sure that you go to Text Ryan. Get on his list, get in his phone, swoop in there. It's not about the DMs anymore. It's about the messages. Stay tuned. We're going to be bringing Carrie Flynn of Digiday on the set next. Welcome back to Real Talk, where we are discussing all things social media, marketing, and what's trending. Joining me here on the set is Carrie Flynn, who is a marketing reporter for Digiday. Carrie is also formerly at Mashable. Carrie, welcome to Real Talk.
Thanks for having me.
It is great to have you here. Now, for those that don't follow you, you have an amazing Twitter photo.
Wow, thank you.
With the Snapchat rainbow vomit. I just want to go ahead and give you kudos and props on that.
Thank you. It's whenever I meet anyone, they're like, oh, you don't have a rainbow tongue? And I'm like, yeah, thanks. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Snapchat. I mean, and I cover it as a company. Try not to play favorites, but if we're having Real Talk, yeah, I love that app.
So Snapchat is your favorite social network?
It's a really, really hard to play favorites, but it's my go-to. For, speaking of the conversation of personal connections, I think that they do it better than anyone else. And it's where I categorize my most intimate conversations with my best friends, with my boyfriends, with my family. So it's the best.
Okay. Where's Instagram fall into that mix?
Again,
we're talking on a personal level?
Yeah, a personal level. You can Google my name on Instagram, and you'll probably find a story I wrote at Mashable where I actually ended up not deleting my account, but deleting the app off my phone. Because I know there are a lot of people in this world that love the app and they love photos, and that's really their go-to for intimacy. But for me, I'm a words person, and I'm really like a text back and forth. And to me, I found Instagram to be a place of mindlessness and FOMO rather than true engagement.
Well, it seems like when you look at the differences between both. Now, I'll say in full disclosure, over the last year, I've made that leap from Snapchat over to Instagram. I've really doubled and tripled down on my content creation. But you're right, Instagram is more focusing on the photos, the videos, less about the actual engagement, commenting and whatnot. But
it's great for promotion.
It is great for promotion, but I will say, going back to your point with the intimacy that Snapchat offers is the DM, right? You hear it goes down in the DM.
Yeah.
And regardless of, Snapchat or Instagram, we've connected quite a bit on Twitter through direct message, which leads us back to digital intimacy. We're talking with Ryan Leslie here a short while ago about SuperPhone and about this new wave of going off of social and going back to the basics of mobile marketing and mobile messaging. What are your thoughts on what Ryan's working on with SuperPhone?
Yeah, well, I've known that Ryan's been working on for a while now. I think I profiled him back in 2016, and it's interesting to me 2.5 years later, how much of what he's doing makes sense to the conversations we're having today. So this idea of time well spent on social is something that Facebook has adopted Tristan Harris's language to use it, and it's all about when you're on your phone, when you're using technology, is it really rewarding for you in this era of phone addiction? And then we're also in this world of GDPR and post-Cambridge Analytica on Facebook, and that's all about owning your data. And interestingly, what Ryan's doing addresses both of those. It's the idea that texting and intimacy is really should be at the forefront of your mind, and then you should be able to control your connections versus give them to a third party like Facebook and Google, who can then maybe not necessarily abuse them, but own the rights to it and market to you in a way that maybe you aren't as comfortable with.
When you look at the social media landscape today, do you feel that it's right to assume that most consumers are overloaded, meaning they have too many options? Yeah. There's not a go-to. Like for you personally speaking, Snapchat's up there as one of your go-tos. But I think for the average consumer out there that doesn't work in marketing and isn't necessarily in the space, they're getting pulled and tugged from every direction. Yeah, for the average consumer and for the celebrity, like you'll see that people pick and choose. And when I wrote that story about why I deleted Instagram, I remember that some guy from Facebook replied to me being like, you know what, I'm not even mad at you, because really these days you kind of just choose 3 apps. And for me, that would be Facebook as a whole, and then it would be Snapchat and Twitter. And why am I putting all my stuff on there? I really don't see I can have as much value if I'm dividing my attention. And that's why it's interesting for companies like Ryan, where it just gets back to the person. So if you can actually connect them all, and if you go to my profile and you'll see, oh yeah, that's Carrie's Twitter, that's Carrie's Instagram, that's Carrie's Facebook, and be able to actually synthesize it, it's more valuable than me just like trying to figure out, oh, what do I snap, what do I Insta, what do I post on Facebook, should I be live tweeting? Like it's a lot to manage. Or should you be doing a Facebook Live or Twitter Live? Yeah. I agree. I think that there is information overload. You mentioned FOMO before, and I think consumers are just overwhelmed. And it's not just from consuming content creators, but it's also brands as well. Yeah. I've worked on the brand side for many years, and I can tell you when you're on the brand side, you even become overwhelmed. Managing an agency is just creating content for Twitter, and then an agency is creating content for Instagram, and then when you throw live video in there, it's almost impossible to expect that your customers are going to follow you everywhere. Which goes back to my belief is brands and content creators should be trying to get their social media users actually off of social media and go back to your website and opt into your email program. I think SuperPhone solves an interesting, I don't want to call it problem, but an interesting challenge, which is very real, which is how do you get in front of your audience in the quickest and most efficient way possible? Yeah. Well, I think agencies and marketers just go for scale so easily. Scale for wanting to reach the most number of people and attract new users. And going back, though, what about like intimacy and retention? And you kind of lose that if you're just shoving up a bunch of Facebook ads. Sure, you're going to get, or a TV ad, you're going to get massive scale and brand resonance. But what about making sure that you're really talking to that person every day? And we're starting to see that change with this idea of Snapchat, where it's direct messaging people, or chat bots on Facebook, and with CRMs like Ryan, where it's really about the direct-to-direct personal experience, as personal as you can be. So we're talking about personalization, but what are your thoughts about automation? Can you still automate and use bots, but be personable? I think we're hopefully getting there. I know it was like 2 years ago when Facebook really announced the Messenger ecosystem where all brands could sign on to make their bots, and I could start one right now, I think. I don't know, they might have paused that. But back then you could just start it. It could take 2 seconds. There were all these automated messages. Now we're starting to see there are all these companies that are helping you really personalize it. So I can be like, I speak a certain way. I just use the word like. I say awesome a lot. I could make the bot smarter to understand who I am. And we're getting there. And like Ryan mentioned earlier, there's this idea of being able to get to a human. There's only so much you can do with a bot. Sometimes you really just need that human connection. We're starting to see technology be smarter of knowing where to kind of have a mix of that, human plus AI. Do you think we'll get to a point where brands will start to scale back in terms of from having the whole suite of social networks to just maybe cut back to do 1 or 2, and maybe they'll have SuperPhone / text message marketing as a part of their marketing mix? I think a lot of the big brands and the little brands are interested by shiny objects. Okay. And what's interesting now is
we haven't really had a new shiny object in a while. Like I would say Snapchat was probably the most recent one, Musical.ly too. I think whatever app there is, whether it's, I guess they paused Vine too, but whatever future social media app, the brands are going to go to it. So no matter how much, these SuperPhone and Facebook get better at managing conversations, I still think we'll see an interest go elsewhere.
What I love about SuperPhone is you're able, once again, you talked about intimacy before, you're able to reach people on a device that they're constantly using throughout the day.
Yeah.
To check online banking, to check social media, to check emails, but you're able to essentially cut through the digital clutter. And I think that's the challenge that everyone faces today, is how do you get seen by people? And let's face it, the same users are on Facebook are over on Instagram, and some of them cross over to Twitter and Snapchat and LinkedIn. But how do you get that one message out and get as many people to see it? So, I said before, I'm a fan of SuperPhone now. I'm going to be signing up. Do you think this is going to just really be the next wave? Is this it, where people go for that next shiny object?
I think people do still love text messaging. There's a reason text messaging still exists. I think people love the chronological order of it, where you don't really never want a mixed message, and you like that. And it's not based off of algorithm of like it showing you whatever it's best. It's really the conversations that you consider intimate and real time. You're going to usually respond to text messages fast. If not, you'll have a bunch of red bubbles in and that's scary. So yes, I think texting is still king. And the thing that SuperPhone can do is really help you manage that at scale. So yes, I do see that type of direct being the best.
For big content creators out there, how do you foresee they can go ahead and take their game to the next level by using text message marketing?
Yeah, well, I guess the issue is, Ryan gives out his phone number. I give out my phone numbers. People still don't understand, like, it's still so precious.
Like if Logan and Paul gave out their phone number, what do you think's going to happen?
The phone would crash, for sure. Like they don't have a way to manage it. And that's why there's an interesting thing about your CRM. You can give out, Logan can say, follow me on Twitter or follow me on Instagram, and he'll try to help manage it, and there are software solutions for that. But yeah, unless you have an actual CRM, then you can't, Logan Paul can't say his phone number. It would be crazy. He'd have to get a new one. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see kind of the adoption rate of SuperPhone, and I'm sure Ryan doesn't like talking about it, but if there are other competitors in that landscape as well to help you really manage those direct conversations.
Excellent, Carrie. We are going to bring Ryan back on the set.
Yay!
So we're going to do the Real Talk Roundup. We also have Jason Pfeiffer of Entrepreneur that's going to be joining us as well. Before we sign off, Carrie, where can the viewers out there learn more about you and connect with you?
Well, my Twitter is Carrie, Kerrym Flynn. And with that, you'll see my phone number and my email. So let's go from there.
So are you on SuperPhone as well?
I'm not on SuperPhone. Not that many people text me.
Okay.
Well, maybe once I make it big, I'll have more appearances on here, and then I'll have to get
But this is interesting, though, because you're a reporter. I'm sure you get hit up
a
lot with pitches for stories.
They just always go to my email. Like, we're just mentally trained to, like, email people versus text.
So someone has a hot lead for you, though. Do you
they call me. Oh, people have called me. Yeah, I will be on the street, and people are like, this happened. Like, and I'm like, cool, and I will pick up and actually have a conversation. That is not a cue for everyone to call me ever, but
unless you guys out there have like a really hot story that you want to share with Carrie. Yeah. Carrie, thank you so much for coming here on the set of Real Talk. Hang tight, we are going to do the Real Talk Roundup. We're going to bring Ryan Leslie back on the set along with Jason Pfeiffer of Entrepreneur. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Real Talk. This is the Real Talk Roundup. Joining me here on the set, once again, is Ryan Leslie with SuperPhone. We have Carrie Flynn with Digiday and Jason Pfeiffer, editor-in-chief over at Entrepreneur. Jason, welcome to the set of Real Talk.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I ran into you guys in the lobby. You invited me in. I'm crashing the show. It's good to be here.
So we were talking in the lobby about engagement pods on social media. So we're going to get to that. But first, we had Ryan here on the set talking about all things SuperPhone and mobile marketing. Now, again, you're editor-in-chief at Entrepreneur. And the reality is most entrepreneurs today are struggling with understanding how marketing is done and really balancing the marketing mix of digital and social, which also includes email marketing. Now you throw in text message marketing into this mix already. So taking into account the way that Ryan through SuperPhone is helping to streamline and really scale mobile messaging, is this something that you see as a benefit to entrepreneurs?
Oh, absolutely. Adding anything at first sounds more overwhelming than all the overwhelming things already are. There are so many options. You're absolutely right. Entrepreneurs do not have a full grasp of everything. It's impossible to. But I think what's really great about adding something like this, adding anything, is that it gives entrepreneurs more options to see how they can directly connect with their consumers. Because the fact is, not every company and not every entrepreneur is going to be most effective on every platform. I always suggest to entrepreneurs that they figure out where their audiences are and where their messages are most resonant, and then they put their energy into maximizing that. And so when you add something new to the mix, I think that entrepreneurs should go and they should check it out, and for some it's going to work really well, and for others it's not going to make sense for them and their audience, and then they'll move elsewhere, and everything sorts itself out. But I think more options are great, and that everybody should always be experimenting.
So good points, Jason, and I'm going to open this up to all of you, but I know when I go to get my dry cleaning, right, at the dry cleaning store, they have my phone number, and nowadays a lot of small businesses are using Square and these, different gateways to swipe your card. It's also collecting data. So how can an entrepreneur out there, let's just say, again, the dry cleaning store that I go to, how can they use SuperPhone to collect data and then reach out to me?
Yeah, I mean, it's really just simple. Every collection should be really an exchange. It shouldn't just be a collection. So for me, if you go to my Instagram profile, my number's there. I give in order to receive. So when they give their cell phone number, say, hey, text us anytime. You want to know about hours, you want to know about specials, here's our number. That's when the exchange happens. And then you can have you need a repository where you can actually organize it and make sure that you're hitting people at the right times, so that you can actually, activate the right way. I think text messaging is really special, and I think to my guy's point here, it's the fact that it's kind of a new medium when you think about marketing. Right now, I think, yes, in life we're always marketing ourselves. So when you get that match on the dating app, you jump to the text messaging and you're marketing yourself. When you have to really think about marketing your business, you're not necessarily thinking about text, and so that's why we've built the tools in the SuperPhone to scale it and make it more intelligent, so that you can think in a business framework on how you want to use this medium of communication.
So, open question to all of you: should brands, or unless they're in e-commerce, including small businesses, should they just forego driving people to their website at this point and try to collect that phone number?
I think it's useful. I think websites will always be useful. I know Facebook made a big push forever ago with Pages to have it be you don't even need a website, small business, just make a Facebook profile. But not everyone uses Facebook, so that's a poor plan. But this idea of having a repository of information, Ryan mentioned hours, for restaurants, menus. Everyone wants to have a destination they can give someone. And I think to Ryan's point, if you're having this phone number text conversation, it should be a give and take, actually have a conversation.
Yeah.
Versus with, if I can text them, what are your hours? There's still a value saying, go to the website. It has a repository of our latest tweets, or Instagram, or reviews. I think there's benefits to both.
Yeah. I mean, me personally, I try to get everybody into my phone. The beauty of the website is the fact that we're all creative, unique individuals, and so when you have that ability to choose the color palette and choose the fonts, I mean, there are branding agencies that people spend a lot of money to say, hey, what's the brand voice? What's the tone? What's the font color? What's the color palette, right? And so when you have a place where you actually could say, hey, come here, you get the full experience, I think that's really what makes the website still a great outlet.
Yeah, the premise of your question is one that I think often comes in when new technologies are introduced, which is replace. Does this replace that? And the answer really is that things work in concert with each other. It's a combination, and you have to figure out what combination works well for you, and that goes for every entrepreneur. So in the way that people were probably, when text messaging was first introduced as a concept, people were going to say, well, then nobody's going to talk on the phone anymore. But that didn't happen. Right now, people text and they talk on the phone, but you do it for different reasons. And just like that, texting is going to be a great way to communicate with consumers, but also going to their website sometimes for other things that maybe texting doesn't make sense for. For example, a lot of entrepreneurs do really well with creating custom content, or content that helps their consumers and builds that relationship. And so now the consumer will trust the brand because of the blog that the brand runs, and then they'll want to have that direct conversation when maybe they have a more immediate need. Yeah. It all works in concert.
So one of the things that Ryan said is that his objective is to get as many phone numbers as possible, which, bringing it back to modern day marketing now with social media, a lot of content creators and brands are trying to get as many likes and followers as possible. And we have what's known as pods, engagement pods, where people are using these groups in order to go ahead and boost their social media reach. So are we going to see, Ryan, engagement pods happening for text message marketing?
I think so. I think we've already seen it. I think when you look at like the Bernie Sanders campaign, basically, yeah, there was Bernie who kind of presided over all of these volunteers, but each one of those volunteers had a pod of 200 or 300 or 500 folks that they were responsible for, saying, hey, what's up, it's Ryan, man, come out to the Bernie rally tonight. Hey, what's up, it's Ryan, did you donate? It wasn't coming directly from Bernie, but I think that the usage of dark social in that way, right, where it wasn't some, you know, it wasn't a Facebook post, it was actually a text message to that pod of people. I think we're really going to start seeing that. We're going to start seeing that in a major way as people start to understand how impactful it really is.
Now, going back over to social media, Jason and Carrie, do you see pods being effective?
Well, I've been running with one for about a month now as an experiment to see
if it's an Instagram pod?
Yes, an Instagram pod to see if it will boost my follower count. And I got to tell you, it did significantly so. Now, are those people who are now following me lasting followers? Are they going to translate into sales of my book, for example? I don't know. We're going to find out. The number by itself matters because we live in a stupid world in which numbers of followers matters. And that's unfortunate, but the thing that I have learned is that lots of people are playing this game, so you either play the game or you lose it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
But
just helps with scale.
I would say for your book, though, the more phone numbers you have of people that really care about your book launching,
those are stronger one-to-one connections.
It's going to make a big difference.
I totally agree with that.
Carrie, on the closing note, in 15 seconds or less, thoughts on pods?
Well, we've already talked about how I don't like Instagram because
Right.
I think it's less meaningful. You know, like even when Twitter does their culling of bots, I'm happy when my follower count goes down. It just means that the people who are following me are actual
More people are actually engaging now.
Yeah, I hope so.
They're paying attention.
Yeah.
Excellent. You know, guys, we are up for time, but we're going to have this conversation some more around pods. I know it's a very controversial topic. Some people love it. Some people are against it. You know, I'm like you. I think it's all for, you know, from a utility standpoint, the more people that you can get to know and connect, and then to yours, over time, people are going to drop off, but that's great because they're probably not going to be a long-term fan or customer. So thank you so much. We've got Ryan Leslie, Jason Pfeiffer, and Carrie Flynn here on Real Talk. Thank you so much for watching this episode, and we'll see you guys next time.